Okay, so I think it's time. So, welcome everyone. Uh, my name is Clifford, and I am the current lead at GDSE Moy. I want to thank you all for this session. So, today we'll be having it's part of our Android series events, and we'll be having Prince take us through navigation components. So, as I had shared earlier, uh, we wanted to get like what is the main expectation like going to this event, and I think Brains needs this information more than me. So like from what we got, people want to see how to use fragments, people want to learn something new, people want to learn app navigation, and they also want to see a demo. So I think from here I'll give Brains a chance to introduce himself. Brains, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Prince Mbaka. Yeah, so thank you for taking your time to uh, come learn something new. Yeah, so I I'm sure that you will gain something new that you will use in your future apps. So yeah, just sit back and yeah, so that you can learn some new stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we can start. So, Clifford, if at any point you cannot hear me clearly, you can just uh, notify me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll inform you, Brains. Don't worry.
Okay, so sure. Okay, before we start, let me just give you a brief info about me. So, I'm Prince Mbaka. I'm an Android developer. Currently, I'm freelancing for now. And apart from all those technical stuff, I also love tech meetups, meeting like new people, learning from people, and also sharing my knowledge. Yeah. Uh, Also, in my downtime, I also love watching anime and also reading manga. Yeah. So that's about me. Okay. So today we'll be having a look at navigation components. So navigation components is part of Android's uh, Android's architecture components. So it's a way and the Android team wants you to implement your navigation flow in your app. So for some time it was quite uh, hectic if you have a large app how you can structure navigation. So as more features increase, the navigation flow of your app will become more complex. So the Android team came up with navigation components uh, to make it easier to create uh, the navigation flow in your app. Yeah, so let's look at the benefits of navigation components. So the first being like before it was quite hectic to manage your fragments, your activities. As your app grows, it became more complex. So the Android team saw that they can simplify this by bringing this library in, so that you can structure app in a much efficient, maintainable, and testable way. The second benefit is that you can easily manage the, let's say, the navigation part of your activities or fragments. So let's say you are going to the next screen. So that screen which you originated from, it's in the back stack. So that's the meaning of the back stack. So the back stack is just a pile of your activities. So it's a way the Android system manages your activities and your fragments. So navigation components out of the box handles this for you without you doing anything. But earlier on, you had to manage how you can navigate to the like to the bar, to the bottom of your stack, or to the uppermost part of your stack. The third benefit is that earlier on we used intense fragments transaction to navigate to, let's say, an activity, or use fragment transaction to navigate to a fragment. So we earlier on had to create intents. So navigation components handles this for you. So like you won't have to do something like anything. So this will be done for you. So that's one benefit which I also love about navigation components. The fourth is that you can easily send data between fragments and activities. So that's the benefit of navigation components. Earlier on, we had, like, it was quite complex to navigate like data between, to send data between different parts of your activities or fragments. So navigation components will make it easier for you to pass data between activities or fragments. The fifth is that you can easily create animations between while navigating to one part of a screen or back. So you can easily add animations out of using the navigation components. So later on, you will see using an example how it's easier to create animated transitions while navigating to different parts of your app. So the next thing is it's easier to create bottom navigations, navigation drawer, and overflow menus. So this navigation components will make it easier for you to hook up a bottom navigation or a navigation drawer or an overflow menu. And the last one is that you can, similar to I am sure that most of us have come across the layout editor. So it's that graphical user interface where you drag and drop, let's say, text view, image view. So with navigation components, it comes with a navigation editor that will allow you to do the same thing, similar to the layout editor. So this out of the box makes it easier to create navigation, since you'll be just drag and dropping like yeah, that kind of the sort. So you'll be just drag and dropping, maybe clicking stuff here and there, so that you can create navigation. So it's quite easier. Okay, so let's look at the prerequisites before you use, if you want to learn navigation components. So you should have a basic Kotlin knowledge, which I'm sure most of us have. But in case you don't have the basic of Kotlin, don't worry, it's will not do much of Kotlin, but it's quite similar to Java. So you will have, if you know Java, Kotlin, it's quite easier to understand what we'll be doing today. So also you should have Android Studio version should be 3.2 and above. So if you don't have the current version or a newer version, you can go to the Android Studio website and download the latest Android Studio version. Also, you should have a device. So a device is something like a phone, a tablet. Also, or if you don't have a device, your emulator should be running API 14 plus. So your device and emulator should be running API 14 plus. Yeah, so those are the prerequisites for today. Yeah, so there are three major parts of navigation components, one of them being navigation graph. So navigation graph is like it's a navigation editor. So similar to the layout editor, where you can create navigation flow within your app. So let's say you have an activity, you have fragments, so you can easily drag and drop stuff so that you can create a navigation flow easily. Yeah. The second being there's a Nav Host Fragment. So a Nav Host Fragment, you can think of it as being a container. So a container that's maybe empty, so that fragments can come in and come out. So you can think of navigation host fragment as that. Yeah. The last being the nav controller. So the way fragments are swapped in and out of the nav host fragment, the nav controller is the one that performs these actions. Yeah. So you should keep these three major parts of navigation components. So this is all about navigation components. You have the navigation graph, which is the editor. You can drag and drop. You have a Nav Host fragment, which acts as a container that fragments can come in and out. Then the functionality of swapping fragments or activities in and out is managed by the nav controller. So we spoke about nav host fragment. So you can see in these black dotted lines, you can think of that as being the nav host fragment. So the nav host fragment will have fragments coming in from the left, maybe from the left, then they can come out. So it's like swapping fragments in and out of a container. So yeah, you can think of that. So nav host fragment is a container for different fragments destinations. Yeah. Okay. Before that, we can say navigation components recommends using a single activity. So you should have a single activity, then multiple fragments for your app. Or maybe you can have each activity must contain its fragments. So it's not a must, but it's highly recommended if you have an app that you know that has many parts of that has many parts of it. You should have one single activity with multiple fragments. So why should you do that? So that you can easily use navigation components, and also you know activities are quite per- performance heavy. So if you have just an app that contains activities, it will the Android system will have it will use a lot of uh, processing power. Yeah. So
Brains.
yeah.
I think we're having some attendees saying they can't see your screen. I'm not so sure. Can you stop sharing, then you share again?
Okay. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, yes, they can see.
Okay. So should I start over again or?
I'm not so sure. Maybe you can backtrack the last two slides. Maybe you can
Okay.
backtrack with two slides at least. Yeah. Just to accommodate the ones who lost.
Sure. Okay. So in navigation components, you have three major parts of it. So these are the three things that that really evolve around navigation components. So one of them is the navigation graph. So the navigation graph is like a similar. I'm sure most of us have come across the layout editor, so it's quite similar to that, but for now it's called the navigation editor. So it creates it's like a map, so that you can easily create directions to certain fragments, and yeah, you can easily drag and drop stuff, click and drag to create like paths to certain fragments or activities. Yeah. So the second part is the Nav Host Fragment. So the Nav Host Fragment, you can think of it as being it's like a container. So let's say you have a container where you can remove, let's say you can remove, let's say you have a phone case. So in that phone case, you can remove a phone, put another phone in. So you can think of that as, you can use that analogy when you have Nav Host Fragment. So you can easily put fragments in and remove them while while navigating through your app. So while you are navigating through an app, all that is being done is the fragment is pushed into the Nav Host Fragment. When you move to another fragment, it's removed, another fragment come in. So you can think of that as that. You can use the phone case analogy. Yeah. The last being the Nav Controller. So the functionality of removing fragments in and out, it's managed by the Nav Controller. So that's really the main function of the Nav Controller. Yeah. So those are the three major principles of navigation components. Yeah, so you can use the same analogy here. So you have a Nav Host Fragment. The Nav Host Fragment is, so the Nav Host Fragment is contained in the layout for the activity. So let's say you have a single activity. So in that single activity, you have a layout file. So in that layout file is where your Nav Host Fragment is contained. Your Nav Host Fragment is contained. So that Nav Host Fragment is where other fragments within your app. So let's say you have a sign up, sign in, home activity, settings. So the let's say the site you are navigating to the settings. So the settings activity into will come into in this screen. So where you can see it. So it will be navigated into this screen. When you go back to the home activity, the home fragment will be shown here. So it's kind of swapping in and out. Yeah. So these are like so you can see these two icons for home and for this Android icon. So this is the bottom navigation, which is contained in activity. Yeah. Also, this is the overflow menu where you can see the three dots. Also, the navigation drawer is here also. Yeah, so I was also saying that it's not like the main part, but uh, it's recommended to use single activity if your app has like many different destinations within your. If you have many different destinations in your app, it's recommended to use one single activity, and the destinations should be in fragments form. So one single activity to host the Nav Host Fragment, and the Nav Host Fragment will be used as a container to swap fragments in and out. Yeah, so that's about it. Okay, so setting up navigation components. So you should have this dependency in your build.gradle module app. Yeah. So the navigation fragment KTX and the navigation UI. So the navigation UI is this part of is used majorly in creating the bottom navigation, the overflow menu, and the navigation drawer. So that's the major part of navigation UI. Also in your plugin, you should have this plugin safe args, so safe arguments. So safe arguments is usually used to is usually used to pass data between your fragments in a type safe way. So that's the major part of safe args. And also it can be used in navigation between fragments in a type safe way. Yeah, with that setup, you should also, we can have a brief look at how the navigation graph is. So in your left side, you will have this is the destination panel. So this is where you will see the host, the host. So the host is the fragment, the nav host fragment. So it will be shown here. So let's say you have multiple hosts, they will be shown here. Also the graph contains the fragments that will be swapped in and out of the nav host fragment. So you can see the fragment, main fragment, which are also in this part of in the central part of the navigation editor. So this is the destination panel, number one. Number two is the graph editor, or you can call it navigation editor. Number three is the attributes panel. So if you click, let's say you click on the fragment, on this fragment on the editor, it will show you attributes that are part of the fragment. So you can see you will see the ID, the label, the start destination. So the destination is the ID where you are navigating from. Yeah, so that's where you'll see the attributes. So navigation graph. So majorly there are two things. So the fragments, you can also call the fragments destinations or the activity. So the fragments and the activities are majorly called destinations because you are going from one location to another location. So you can think of these fragments as being destination. So when you hear me using fragments, activities, just know it's same as saying destinations. So number two, these are actions. So actions are is a way of creating a path to another to another fragment. So let's say you want to navigate from fragment main to the fragment view balance. All you have to do when you click on the fragment main, you will see an arrow. So this arrow is called an action. You'll just drag it, then release it here. So with that simple move, you've just created a navigation flow that will take you from the fragment main to the fragment view balance. So with that, if you remember all the fragment transactions, that will be done for you. So you'll not have to like write it up because it will be done for you. So that's one thing I like about navigation components and this editor. Okay, so how can you add a navigation host fragment? So you can create an XML tag, let's say fragment container view. So it's a container that fragments can be swapped in and out. So yeah, this is how you create it. So this should be located in the activity layout file. So you have, if you have let's say you have a main activity file, then the layout for the main activity, it's called, let's say, activity main.xml. So it should be located there. So the fragment container view should be located inside the layout file for your activity. Okay. So we have these attributes. So nav graph, navigation nav graph. So this is used to, so if you can see this nav graph, it's this attribute is used to associate this nav graph, let's say for example this nav graph with this nav host. Yeah, so that's how you can swap in fragments in and out. So that's the major part of nav graph attribute. So default nav host is set to true. So this is to show the Android system that this is the default fragment container. So it also, while if you set this default nav host, it means that you have the ability to debug the back system of your Android app. So if you can see in your phone, this back uh, back arrow. So this allows you control over that. So you can handle the back stack of your tasks. Yeah. So the idea, this is to maybe associate this fragment container so that you can manipulate it. Yeah. Nav host fragment.
Prince, I don't know. I think we've lost you. I think we lost your audio. Can the other attendees hear me? Okay. I think there's a problem from your end, Prince. I don't know. We can see your screen clearly, but we can't hear you. Maybe you can try and unmute again and try and see. No, we can't hear you. Okay. Can you try and like leave the meeting and rejoin? I don't know. Maybe that might help.
Mic check.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, so at what point did you guys not get what I was saying?
You were just about to start about getting our hands dirty. I think the
Oh,
demo.
okay. Sure. So yeah, let's have a look at how we can start using navigation components. Okay. Can you see my screen?
yet, not yet. Yes, yes, I can see it now.
Okay, sure. So before you start using navigation components, you should have these dependencies. So navigation fragment, navigation UI. So you should have this fragment in these dependencies in place. Then also you should have this safeags plugin.
Brains. I'm not sure if you are sharing the right screen. The screen that we see is, I think, the Bevy platform.
Oh, okay.
I think you're sharing a different screen.
Can you see my screen?
We can't see anything yet on the screen, but yes, there's a presence of a screen, but it doesn't show the content of the screen.
Okay, let me try that again. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, now I can see your screen.
Okay, sorry for that. So I was saying earlier that before using navigation components, you should have this dependency in your build.gradle app, and also you should have this plugin, safeags plugin, in your plugins section. Also, this part, don't forget this part, this class part, you should also put. So this should be on your build.gradle project section. So this part, this part project should have this class part. Yeah. So if you have that, then you'll be good to go. So one part, the first step is to create a navigation graph. So how do you do that? So you go to the res folder, you right click, you go to new, then Android resource file. So the navigation graph is a new resource file. So that comes with the navigation component. So you create your file name. So let's call it, you can give it any name. So nav graph. Then resource type, you should put it as navigation. Directory name, you can leave it as that. Click OK. Yeah, and with that, I think we should have created a navigation graph. So you can see here, we have a navigation graph. So let me close this panel. So earlier on, we saw on the slides the part of this. So this was called the destination panel, where you'll see your host and your fragments. Yeah. The middle part is the navigation editor. The right side is called the attributes panel. So yeah. Okay, so the first thing you will have to do is create destinations. So you can create destinations by clicking on this icon, which has a green plus. Click on that. Okay, before that, let me just give a heads up. I already created my fragments because this session is quite short. So I already created my fragments with their respective fragment layouts. So yeah. So if you have your fragments, so you can see this is the main I have one activity. I have multiple fragments. So that's what Google recommends you to do in your app. So yeah. So I haven't done anything complex. I just created the fragments. I'm sure most of us know how to create fragments, but you have not, if you're not, you can go to the docs and see. Sure. So I was saying the first thing is you should create your destinations. So destinations are different parts of your app. So let's say you have a sign-in, a splash screen, a home page, a settings page, checkout page. So the sort. So let's so you click on this icon with the green plus, then you can select the fragments you want to create a navigation flow. So let me start with this fragment start. So that will be the first fragment of my app. Then fragment game. So let me just put it here so that it can become presentable. Then the last fragment is fragment endgame. Yeah, so this is how I want the navigation to happen. So the start fragment, so the user starts the game, navigates to the game fragment, to the end game fragment. Yeah. So with that in place, we'll have to create destinations. So let's say you want to move from the start game. So when a user clicks start game, you want to navigate to the game fragment. So all you have to do is click on this icon, then drag and drop this arrow. So this arrow is the action. And with that, you have created a flow that will take you from the start game to the game is running. So you can see how simple it is. Then when you want to finish the game, I want it to go from finishing game to the end game. So just do the same thing, click and drag, then drop. So with that, we can navigate when the user finishes the game, they will be taken from the game fragment to the end game fragment. Also, we want when the user want to restart the game. So if the user restarts the game, we want to go from end game fragment back to here. So it will be kind of how a simple game is. So you click on that, drag and drop to there. Yeah, so that's how simple it is. So these arrows are called actions. When you click on it, you can see the attributes of it. When you click on a destinations, you can see the attributes of it. So you have an ID, a label, and a name. Yeah. Yeah, so the next thing before we swap these things in and out is if you remember, we talked about fragment container view. So you'll have to create that. And since we have one activity, the fragment, the nav host fragment should be contained in the the layout for this activity. So if you have the main activity or any type of activity you have, so the nav host fragment should be here, should be in the layout for the activity. So that's one point to note. So how do you create it? So you can go here and in your design tab and search for fragment container view and drag and drop it here. So but I want like us to see how it's done. So I'll just code it out. So fragment container view. It has a layout with 0dp, 0dp. Also, you have to give it a name. Android. This is a must. You have to give this name. So Android dot navigation dot fragment dot nav host dot nav host fragment. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all. Also, you should have a default, if you remember default. So app default nav host, default nav host nav. Also associate this navigation graph to your fragment, to your nav host fragment. So this is just a nav host fragment. So how do you associate it? So you say app dot nav graph is equals to at navigation. So at navigation, this navgraph.xml. Yeah, so that's about it. Let me put it in. So let's push it. So all I'm doing is just positioning it using a constraint layout. Yeah. So you can see it there. So that's how the fragment container view is created. So I don't know why it's showing red, but let me try using the editor, the design tab to see. Let's give it an ID first. Call it navigation fragment container. So that's about it. I will come back to that and cool. So after doing that, the next step will be connecting the destinations. So how do you do that? So we earlier spoke about how does the fragments get swapped in and out of this fragment container view. So all you have to do is just use the nav controller. So the nav controller needs can so the nav controller has a method called navigate. In the method navigate, you should pass the destination you want to move to. So let's say that destination will just take the ID and put it there. So also, yeah, the nav controller just simplifies. It will create, let's say you are you are moving from one fragment to another fragment. Earlier on, we just had to create fragment transactions, but here it will be handled by the nav controller. Yeah, so that's about it. So let's go to the start fragment. So on the start fragment, you all this will be done on the on view created method. So we'll come here and say find a reference to. So we want, like, when clicking on this button, we want to move to the game fragment. So you come and you create a reference, you find it. So I'll just use find view by div because of demo purposes, but this is not the recommended way to do it. You can use either view binding or data binding. But I did not start game button. So this button here. Yeah. Then attach a click listener so that when the button is clicked, you want to navigate to that another the destination specified. So how do you do that? You just say find nav controller. Wait, check. Can you hear me, or Clifford, was I lost, or
I don't know. I also lost connection for a while. Maybe the attendees could say.
maybe in the chat, if there's a part where I was lost, you can say.
Okay, you can just continue. I'll be on the lookout to see.
Okay. Yeah, so if you so this is the design part, the design part. So if you go to the code part, you can see in the fragment, in the start fragment, we have this action. So in this action, so this action is this arrow. This action has the destination where it's going to. So the destination where it's going to is the game fragment, as you can see here. So the game fragment. So yeah, we can use the action ID. So r.id.navigate. it was called Action Start Fragment to Game Fragment. So this is the ID that you'll use to navigate to the game fragment. r.id dot action action start fragment. Okay, so let me go back. So I was saying find nav controller. Find nav controller is the it's a tool. It's part of a tool in navigation component that will allow you to swap fragments in and out a fragment, a navigation host fragment. So that's the function of find nav controller. So it has this method called navigate. So navigate, it takes in the action. So what's the action? So the action is to move to the game fragment. So it will take that action. So you just do r.id so that you can reference that action to move to the game fragment. r.id action start fragment. And text null since you are not like sending data to that other fragment. But if you have another, like if you have other, if you're sending data, you can put that there. So you're sending to anything. So, but for now we don't have it, so you'll have to put it null. Yeah, so and with that way, we've just created a navigation flow with just one line. That's just one line, but earlier on we had to create fragment transaction. So yeah, I think now we'll do a demo of how it will navigate so that you can see. So give me a second to. So let me share the screen for my app so that you can see. So let me run it so that you can see how the app will navigate. So as we wait for it to build, we use the controller to navigate to the game fragment. So that's how simple it is. Just using this one line, you can navigate to another fragment. So earlier on, we saw that we have three principles of navigation component. So let's wait for it to build. So earlier on, we saw that we have three parts of navigation component: the navigation host, the navigation controller, and the navigation graph. So that was the major part of it. Okay, so it's taking a time to load.
As it loads, we had a question from Alan. Alan was asking, was saying that he was interested in seeing how you consume data shared from one fragment to another. Maybe if you could give an overview on that.
Oh, okay, sure. So how to send data from one fragment to another? Okay, sure. Let me share my screen again. So I think, so let's say you want to send, uh, let's say, data from start fragment to game fragment. You can do that easily using safehugs. If you remember the plugin called safehugs. So safehugs will generate classes and methods that will allow you to send data in a easier, in a type safe way, so that you will not have illegal state exceptions while doing that. So that's the recommended way of sending data between fragments. So let me just show you a way of doing that. So okay, so let me just thinking of an example. Let's say you have number. Let's say you want to send this number to the next fragment. So you can do that by, so find a reference to the action. So start fragment directions is, so if you remember the plugin called safehugs, it will generate this class so that you can easily send data between fragments. So start fragment directions, then called, so this is the action start fragment to game fragment. With that, so then pass in the data you want to send. So it's called number. So you do that by putting number there. So is it? Yeah. So after that, you can just say find nav controller that that below here. So with that, you can pass in the action here. This action. I guess the purpose it's bringing an error here, it's because the navigation graph, we have to say that start fragments has an argument. So let's call it number. Type is an integer. You can see there are different types: float, boolean, long, float, custom passable. Yeah. So you can give it a default value, but if you don't give it a default value, it will bring up an error. So you can pass in a default value if you want, then add. So if you come back to your code, you can see here we have an argument called number. So that argument will just be sent to the other fragment. Not sure why it's bringing up this, but I think that's one way of doing it. So with that, you can send data between fragments. Yeah. So I think I don't know if that answers your question. My emulator has some problem, but let me try to fix it. Let me just say. Are there any questions? Or how to consume it in the next fragment? So that's so yeah, all you have to do is go to another fragment. So then the fragment that will receive this data is called game fragment. So you'll go to the game fragment and do this. So on your on view created, you come here and say value. So safags. So this is just a variable. You can give it another variable if you want. Then reference the fragment which has sent this data. So it was our start fragment. So this is the class that has been generated to send data between fragments. Then you can access it by saying val, say number equals to safe args dot number. So with that, if you log this, you'll receive this. You'll see that this data has been sent. So then so log it, confirm string so that we can change it to a string. That so I think, Alan, that's how one way of accessing the data that we sent here. That's one way. Right here, but I will have a look at it after this session. Then I will show you how. I will just post the project on GitHub so that you can have access to it. So before we stop, I can show you one way of adding animations. So you can add animations in a simpler way. So you click on your action, then come here at animations. So I already created my animations beforehand. So the one way of creating animations is res new Android resource file. Animations. That's one way of creating it. So for me, I already created this animation. So these are all animations, fade in, fade out. So let's say you are navigating from the start fragment to the game fragment, you want to create an animation of the game fragment sliding in from the right. So all you have to do is click on this action, then enter animations. So enter. So the game fragment should enter. So you want the game fragment to come from the right, to enter the screen from the right side. So you click on this. So that's if you have this created. So slide in right. Yes, you can also exit animation. Let's say you are exiting the you're exiting this destination, you can do the same here. So slide out left, pop enter animation. So let's say you want the back destination to come up. So you just do this. So slide out right. So you can see how simple it is to create animations. So that's one way of doing that. Yeah, so
Is your emulator working, or is it still having
let,
issues?
let me try to see. Give me a minute. I try. There's an error I'm getting, but let me try fixing it here. If it's okay with you.
Okay, I think if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
you might like record your screen later and maybe share in the group, like
Uh,
how it was supposed to see, how it was supposed
okay.
to like transition from the different fragments.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, so I think uh, there are no other questions, and
Think if
yeah,
it's
so we'll also share the slides. You'll like share the slides and the source code. We'll also put it up on GitHub, then we'll share with the
yeah.
members of the group.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So I'll just fix this, then just do a screen record, then I'll show you guys how it goes about.
Yeah, so thank you, Greens, for the session, and thank you to our attendees. I know there was some few technical glitches here and there, and we apologize for that. So I think from here there are no other issues. I think, oh, you have some additional resources.
Yeah, so these are some resources that I recommend you if you want to know more about navigation components. So one of them is this first one. So you should go and look at this video, and also the second one and this one, the update UI components with navigation UI. So that's the resources that will help you to understand more of it. Yeah.
The materials, the slides, the code, and the Git link. We have an Android series WhatsApp group. That's where it will be posted. I can share the invite link. Share, a minute. Share the invite link. Then I think from there you'll just join the group and all the resources will be shared there. Okay, Brent, I think Alan has a suggestion regarding your error. He says that you should check the dependencies on your Gradle. They're likely to cause that error.
Yeah, I think that could be the reason. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for attending the session, and thank you for the feedback. We appreciate it. Those are Bryn's social media handles. You can reach out to him in case of anything. He's also part of the group that I sent the link. You can join and like when you have any issues, like just reach out and yeah, we'll be happy to help, and the other trainers too. So yeah, thank you everyone for attending this session. I think this is the end of the session. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, it was a pleasure. So I hope you got some few tips and tricks here and there. Yeah. So if you have any question, you can just DM me on his Twitter or in the WhatsApp group. So I'm available. Yeah. I will also share the screen recording for how the demo will work. Yeah, after I've fixed this bug. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone.